Hey there, Bright Ideas fans. Welcome back to another Whiteboard Friday video for Friday, March the 3rd. And man, oh man, do we have a lot of stuff to cover in this week's video. Lots of questions to get answered. So here's what we're going to cover. Summary of my face-to-face meetings that happened earlier this week. All these questions that came from the Facebook group. How to add value to a supplier. An example of that, I one call closed a supplier for a product this morning that our share will be $1,500 a month, and once we get them to be exclusive, of course, it'll be 4 times that amount. So we'll go into some detail on that. And the numbers. And by the way, I just realized I'm wearing the same orange shirt as I wore last Friday, so I'll have to not make a habit of that because you won't think I have any other clothes. But anyway, I do. Here we go. 7 days, $26,961 in revenue with a glorious 16% profit margin for $4,274 in profit. Just like I said, when we got the product that we were out of stock for 2 weeks, once we got it back in stock, things would be good, and they are. Now, that exclusive deal that I've talked about for the last several videos still has not fully kicked in because the number one selling product, there's some other jackass who's violating their MAP agreement, which you know they're happy about, selling through his inventory, and he's got about 5 days worth of inventory left. As soon as those 5 days pass, we will be making another roughly $500 a day in profit. So 2 Whiteboard Friday videos from now, this number should be extraordinary. 30 days, 102,000, 14%, $13,872. So decent numbers. So let's talk about the face-to-face meetings that I had. And one of the questions was from David Piccolo. In what types of scenarios would you feel it's more beneficial to travel out to your suppliers to set up face-to-face as opposed to a simple phone call or Skype session? Thank you for the question, David. So first of all, let's deal with his question and then we'll talk about the face-to-face meetings. The scenario where you've got, I wouldn't have made the trip for just one. Obviously, this was a short trip. I was able to do it in a 5-hour drive, and I was able to line up meetings with 5 companies besides the supplier. So that is a scenario where I would do it, where I can get there easily, where I can get lots of meetings, and where I've not been able to make progress via remotely, because sometimes there's just no substitute for human connection. Plus, if they know you're coming into town, they're very likely to put somebody else in the room with them. In this case, one of my meetings, the national sales director was in the room, someone who I had not had any contact with, and that proved to be very, very beneficial. So now I want to just kind of give you an overview of how you would run one of these meetings, because it's not very hard to do. So before going, for every single one of the companies I met with, one of these, and this thing is about 1/4 inch thick. This is a customized presentation. The agenda, and I'm not going to give anybody a copy of this. This is my own blood, sweat, and tears. Make your own, but I will give you the agenda. I talk about how Amazon is the new Google. I show them some slides about their brand presence on Amazon, some slides on who their current sellers are. Then I talk to them about the types of Amazon sellers, and there's basically 2 types, leeches and pros. Then I talk to them about some of their competitors that we would hope to help them take market share from. And then at the very end, I talk about us and our marketing strategy and all the value-added services that we're going to deliver to them. So how do you get the meeting? So these were received, and I give them a print copy of this thing. And like I say, it's about 1/4 inch thick. I think there's so many pages are there. 40 pages long. Made it in Keynote, by the way, in case you're wondering. So when you're starting off the meeting, hey, how are you? Thank you very much for having me in, blah, 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 blah. Ask them 2 questions. Number 1, if you're dealing with the owner, what are you most proud of your company and your brand? If you're not dealing with the owner, what are you most excited about with your company or your brand this year? You want to get them talking about their stuff first. is you need to show interest in their business, and it's good. You need to understand their business. You need to know where it's going because it may have an influence on how you choose to help them market it. And then the second question is, what do you most want to learn in this meeting today? Or what do you want to get out of this meeting today? Because you've got your agenda, that's great. But they care about their agenda, not so much your agenda. Although when you make your agenda about them, then they're going to care. So ask those two questions and then get into the agenda in here. And you'll find that if you do it well, which after you may not do it well the first time, you might not do it well the second time, but if you do it enough times, eventually you'll get good at it. And I encourage you to dry run it on whoever before you go. So of the meetings, and I guess this is kind of the proof in the pudding of why I thought these were so good. One of them, so I met with some smallish companies on the first day, and I think I'm probably going to nab a few of those, and they were like $15,000 to $25,000 exclusive relationships. Good stuff, but not like not knocking the ball out of the park. Two in particular. One, their warehouse, my God, it must have been like 3 football fields long. It was massive. They have 2 lines, and I had not really made any progress with this company remotely. Had never even got them to agree to take a virtual meeting with me. So got there face to face. The e-commerce manager sits down, and I go through my presentation with him, and I found 3 ways that they have 3 preferred sellers now. So they're like, nope, no more sellers. Got our 3. That's all we need. I said, okay. So how come they're not doing this? And how come they're not doing this? And how come they're not doing this? And this is, I have to remember, one of them was they were not responding to negative product reviews. Why aren't they doing that? Shouldn't they be doing that? And he was like, yeah, they should be doing that. I mean, maybe they're just too lazy. One of the other issues with those sellers, when we got to the area where we talked about sellers, I said, look how many products these guys have. One of them has 4,000 products, and the other one has like 2,700 products. Do you think maybe they're not paying attention to your stuff enough because they simply have too many other products that they're handling? And again, his head started going up and down. He's like, yeah, maybe. So how many products you got? And I'm like, under 100. It's like, oh, good to know. So I was able to come out of that meeting because at the end of it, he's like, Trent, you've made valid points. These are absolutely areas where the value that you said you would deliver, it would be important to us. So he says, I'm now thinking of expanding because those 3 people are sharing $2 million worth of Amazon revenue per year. So he said, I'm thinking of cutting you in on that. But obviously I can't just cut one of them out and it's a big deal. And I've got to think my way through of how to make this change. So this is a very important part of your meeting. If you make it work for the supplier to come up with a solution, they have too many other priorities and they're never going to get to it. You're never going to get anywhere. So I literally said to him, I said, look, I know you've got 27 other priorities waiting for you at your desk the moment you walk out of this room. And I don't want this to be a wasted hour of your time, and I don't want it to be a wasted hour of my time. So what we need to do is have an actionable go-forward strategy that works for you and it works for me. So let me put that on my responsibility. Let me come up with something for you, and I'll come back with a proposal of how I think we should start off that would be good for you and good for us. And he said, awesome, love it. So here's what I got back to him. He's got 5 products that generate the bulk of the revenue, and they just get a whole bunch of other products. He's got like about 120, 130 products in total. And some of them, they're not doing very well. He says, I'd really like to see some of our other products selling better. I said, great. So here was my proposal. I said, why don't you let me become one of the sellers of one of those 5 products for 6 months so I can make some money. And then we'll pick 3 or 4, 5 other ASINs, and I'll fix all the problems on those ASINs for you. And I'll buy some inventory and I'll sell them. I might not make any money on those, but I'm going to make money on these. So overall, from my perspective, it'll be worth my time. So that proposal right now is being considered. And if you think about it, why is that a good proposal? One, it's easy for him to say yes, no contracts to sign, and he can literally just cut me off at any time. If I only buy 30 days worth of product at a time, even though he said, well, I'll do it for 6 months, he literally could just take PO number 2 and go, nah, not going to do it. End of it. So it's an easy out for him. Second meeting of that day. So that deal is worth, as for one of four, and we can become a full-fledged one of four, that's worth 500 grand a year in revenue. If I can kick out one of the other ones or two of the other ones, obviously there's as much as $2 million of revenue there that we'd like to get our hands on. Second meeting of the day is an $80,000 a month brand. New national sales managers in the room. Go through that deck with him. And he says, you know what? He says, I learned more today about Amazon than I've ever learned from anyone ever. And he said, you've made a ton of very good points, and I agree completely with all of them. They have 47 sellers of their number one product, by the way. And he's like, you're right. This is not helping our cause. Can you come back and help me pitch the board to agree to go from 47 sellers down to 2 or 3? And I said, sure. Am I going to be one of those 2 or 3? He goes, obviously, it's a slam dunk. You're going to be one of those 2 or 3. So again, that depending if we can make it one of 2 and they're an $80,000 brand, that's another 40 grand a month of revenue for us. And all of this, of course, would be at good profit margins because we wouldn't take the deals if it wasn't. So face-to-face meetings, absolutely a big believer. I've just extended a job offer this morning to someone who I'm going to replace myself in the day-to-day blocking and tackling of, like as I've explained in previous episodes how we send out all these emails, and there's a lot of replies that come in and screenshots and just going after the onesies and twosies products. I'm firing myself from that job because I've now hired someone else who starts in 3 weeks who's going to take over that. So I'm going to spend the bulk of my time going after the whales like these and doing more of these little road trips and trying to bring in, instead of a product like I brought in today, which I'll talk to you about more in a few minutes, that's going to make us $1,500 a month, to an account that will make us $30,000 a month, like the one that we just won. Actually, it will make us even more than that, close to 40. So that's, as the owner, that's where you want to be spending your time. All right, let's get back to my agenda and see what's next. So we talked about face-to-face already. How to add value to suppliers. So one of the things that I did today, and it worked very well, perfect timing because I was filming this video today, was I called a brand who had turned us down over email, and smallish brand, which is the kind you should be targeting anyway. The guy that answered the phone, lucky me, was the company owner. Couldn't be better. So he said, what do you want? And I said, well, we'd been in touch with you. We'd sent an email. I'd spoken with Matt, and we're very interested in becoming a sell every brand. We specialize in Amazon and blah, 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 blah. Prior to picking up the phone, I was having a look at some of your products, and I noticed 3 major deficiencies that your existing sellers could have easily fixed for you. Oh, he says. So I explained to him, I said, well, first of all, you've got 2 ways that your brand is described. So when you see like a product title, I've ran into that, there's a link to the brand. Ideally, they use the same words for every product listing so that when a consumer clicks that link, they can see every product that company offers. Well, in this case, and this is not terribly uncommon, there was 2 different instances. So if I clicked one link, I'd see some of their products. And if I clicked the other link on some other product listing, I'd see some of their products, but there was no one link I could click to see all their products. Do you think a brand owner cares about that? Damn rights they do. Then I talked to him about how his critical product reviews were not being answered, responded to. And I said, I don't know why your company, the sellers that you have aren't doing this. I guess they're just too lazy. And so he asked me a bunch of questions about reviews and review software and so forth. We're having a really nice 2-way discussion. And then I said, I think the reason why you're having these problems is seller number 1 has 1,400 products and seller number 2 has, 400 products or whatever the number was. So maybe they're just too busy. Maybe they don't have the time to pay attention to you. So then he's like, well, how much do you need to pay for this product? He says, first of all, he says, Trent, I'm super interested. Normally I just blow off calls like this. I do it all the time, but I'm really happy that I took your call. So we agreed upon prices that's going to give us about a 17% profit margin. And I said, so he says, I really want to study your company and I want to spend some time reading your site. I said, no problem. We scheduled a call for Monday. And at the end of that call, I'm going to issue a purchase order. And I'm not going to prepare a deck like this right away. I'm going to get an order or 2 in, and I'm going to do some of the things that we do to deliver value when we're one of many suppliers. And those things typically are around product review management, notifying them of MAP violators. We tend to focus on things that help the brand, but don't help the competing sellers, like listing optimization. Not going to do that. I would run an ad campaign because that directly benefits only us and not the competitors. So that's your delineator between ways that you're going to add value when you have an exclusive versus not having an exclusive. Focus on things that benefit the brand, but not the other sellers. And they get that. They don't object. It's perfectly reasonable. So we had this conversation, and basically at the end of the phone call, we had a deal. And that product, I'm staring over a little whiteboard where I track my stuff each week. That one product, our share, it's a 2,000 unit a month product, will be 1/4 share. So 500 units for us is $1,500. As soon as I get him to kick off those other sellers, which you can bet I will probably be successful in doing in the first 60 to 90 days, that is now a $6,000 product. $6,000 of profit per month, that one product. And they have more than one product, although that one is the big winner by a long distance. So the lessons is know what the deficiencies are. Write them down, make some notes. I actually have an email template that I send out, and all I have to do, because HubSpot makes this really easy, is literally just change the screenshots and boom, send it out, and then pick up the phone. Leave voicemail or get them live if you're lucky, and draw their attention to that email, because people are going to care about the deficiencies on their product listings. All right, so let's go through what questions remain. JL Highland asks me, I'm not sure I understand your current thinking on when Price Checker 2 is used and when Jungle Scout is used. So the answer, JL, is for product extractions, we use Price Checker 2. That's when you see a seller and you want to extract all their products into a spreadsheet. I use Jungle Scout for basically everything else. I want to see a sales estimate for a product. I want to see sales estimate for all of their products. I want to see a graph showing price changes. I want to see the number of sellers. I want to see if Amazon's a seller. I want to see a graph for changes in sales rank. I use Jungle Scout Pro, the Chrome extension, for all of that. I do not use Jungle Scout, the web app, for anything because we don't do product research in the way that Jungle Scout describes it. We simply do the product extractions, which is a part of our mass production sourcing model that I've talked about a million times and cover in detail in episode 213 of my podcast. Travis Ross. Hey, Travis, how are you, my friend? Nice to hear from you. Since you're talking about how to add value, answer to some common objections that I've heard. So I think I've kind of covered that already. The biggest objections, of course, are how am I going to maintain my prices? Because that's the number one problem that brands have. It's a 3-step approach. Brand gating is step number 1. Reducing sellers to the smallest number that they are comfortable with, and dealing with only a group of preferred sellers is 2. And number 3 is putting in place the legal foundation, which only an attorney can do, so that a MAP violation becomes a trademark infringement, so that they can now send a cease and desist letter and ultimately sue if they choose to. And that attorney can subpoena Amazon to get the rogue seller's actual business contact information so they can send a physical cease and desist letter, which, according to the attorney that we work with, works every time, because once people realize that they're not invisible hiding behind that generic Amazon seller name, they think, holy crap, they actually know who I am. They don't want to get sued, so they stop. David Piccolo, I think I already answered your questions, so sorry about that. Jeremiah Candelaria asks, what's your in-person meeting look like? So I kind of covered that one already. And I do take some colored print collateral, those 39 pages that I mentioned. And then second part, law firm referral process, what does it look like? And basically I just do an email to the attorney and I say, hey, Bob wants to talk to you, and I CC them both and I send it, and that's it. All right. And David Piccolo asks a second question. What would you say are the 3 most crucial lessons you've learned you wish you'd known before starting FBA wholesale? Lesson number 1 is target products that are part of a brand that you would ultimately want to have exclusives with. That's not always easy to do in the beginning. Number 2, make sure that brand is the size of an organization where you have a very good shot at talking to senior management or the owner. And then number 3, and I don't know that this was a lesson I didn't realize because I think I did, but it's important for a lot of you, sourcing is a numbers game. As I mentioned in the video last week, or maybe the one before, we've attempted to source 1,800 products so far. Our conversion rate is like 0.5%. So if you don't have a mass production sourcing system, you are not going to be able to contact that many brands. We've only been doing this for 5-6 months now, something like that, and we've had amazing results. It's because of that mass production engine. And he also asks, have I found reason to put considerable amount of effort into channels other than Amazon? So I don't know that we put we're on other channels. We're on Jet, Walmart, and eBay. And I don't know that we put a considerable effort. Some of my staff definitely does devote time, and we use some software to help replicate the content that's on Amazon and punch out the listings on those other platforms. And we have a fulfillment company that does all the fulfillment so that I'm not burdened with it. But where it's valuable, and it only lifts revenue by 10%, but where it's valuable is converting a supplier. When they hear that we like the supplier today, he's like, oh, you're on Jet and Walmart. I've been wanting to get on those marketplaces. So it's yet one more reason why that individual will want to do business with us. It makes you look like a more capable, diversified, professional organization. All right, let me have a quick look. That's all the questions. I want to have a quick look and make sure there's anything else here that I want to talk about. The other question was from Jerry Shockley. Can you give an overview of the financial model? It's not particularly complicated. We buy products wholesale, we sell them retail, so there's a markup, and that's our gross profit, and we pay all of our expenses out of that gross profit. So I don't know how to really answer that any more simply than that. And okay, so some housekeeping items. One of my staff said to me right before this video, hey Trent, you should do a Periscope. So I've never done a Periscope before. Might be interested in trying it if there's sufficient demand. So under this video on the blog post, there will be a link for discussion on Facebook. So click that link and make a comment to the effect of, yeah, I'd really like to attend a Periscope. And if there's enough, maybe I'll do a Periscope. And then the other things are, if you have questions for me, and this is the first time watching one of these videos and you're not in my mastermind group yet, you can go to Brightideas.co/asktrent where you can record a question for me. If you're not a subscriber and you would like an invite into the mastermind group, which is free and it's on Facebook and we have literally a daily discussion, that's where I got all these questions from. Just go to Brightideas.co, become a subscriber. The bottom of any blog post will give you an opt-in form and you'll get an invite into that mastermind group. If you're watching this on YouTube and you want to see other videos like this, become a subscriber by clicking the little button. It's, I think, down there. If you think it was a great video, give it a thumbs up. If you thought it was a crappy video, give it a thumbs down. Hopefully you didn't think it was a crappy video. Besides, if you're still watching it at this point, it must be a thumbs up. So with all that said, thank you so much for tuning in for yet another very long Whiteboard Friday video. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you in the next Whiteboard Friday video in a week. Take care. Bye-bye.